Yes, welcome into sportsBIT. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Wednesday, February 1st. It's here, the Super Bowl prop show. 2 full segments, stories, stuff you can bet offshore, the entertainment props, stuff you can bet in Vegas, things we like, and we'll go over all the great props coming up, throw in some gaga stuff there as well. We finally get to do this. It's our favorite show of the year here on sportsBIT with all the props and, of course, play of the day before we get out of here. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. In a second, hey, that story we talked about Monday, bookmaker story with the crazy move with the coin toss, Teddy. New York Times picked that up.
Yeah, you heard it here first, man. sportsBIT, breaking news. The action reporters were on the job. But seriously, though, it's a fascinating story. If you missed it, what was it, on Monday's show? Where the coin flip prop moves from minus 103 either way to minus $6. That's a significant story. It's a great story. And, yeah, we broke it, but, the New York Times, they decided to put a little something in the paper on that. So, good to see us breaking news stories, buddy.
All right, yeah, very good. They're freaking out here in Vegas. It's the talk of Radio Row, and Goodell has his press conference today in Houston. The Raiders to Vegas, doomed maybe? Sheldon Adelson backed out of the deal to finance the new stadium. Adelson was slated to pay $650 million of the $1.9 billion stadium, with the state of Nevada on the hook for $750 million. Now, Davis' backup plan, and this was in the local newspaper, and there was no big deal, that, okay, if Adelson pulls out, Goldman Sachs said, we'll still be part of the deal. They pulled out as well. So now Davis needs a plan C, and I'll tell you, the San Diego Raiders could possibly be in play now.
Yes, but not so fast, my friends. I mean, look, there's been a lot of talk that the deal is doomed. It's dead. It's over. The Clark County Commission chair, Steve Sisolak, one of the guys who put the deal together from a political standpoint. This is not a wrench in the wheel. The wheel fell off. This is an enormous setback, in my opinion. And that seems to be the conventional wisdom. But Mark Davis is one of these guys. He has that silly bowl haircut that he's had forever, and people don't seem to take him seriously. There's no way he walks away from a meeting with Adelson or with Goldman Sachs and lets them walk off the table and say, all right, no big deal, without a plan C. There's got to be a plan C out there, Pauly. I don't know. We haven't heard it yet, and that's probably a good thing, but don't call the Raiders dead yet. I would still put it in closer to even money than, 10 or 20 or 50 to 1, some of the numbers people are throwing around all day.
No, I'm with you. And you can't build a Palace state-of-the-art stadium for 1.3. Who's to say that thing is going to cost 1.9 billion? So if it's 1.3 or 1.4, suddenly he doesn't need 650 million, and the NFL could help him out and chip in 3 or 400 million. Not that big. I mean, it's a $1 billion business. Don't have San Diego Part 2 that they up and leave, and they're playing in a 20,000 seat stadium for a couple years, which is a joke. And I'll tell you, what's fascinating, what if Spanos stayed in San Diego? Davis would have said, all right, I'm going to Los Angeles then.
It is pretty random, but Pauly, look at the picture of the proposed stadium. It's so cool. That is a cool looking venue, and it's also not that far from my house. I imagine we'd be a little bit more regular at Raiders games, but I'm with you. The $1.9 billion, you probably could trim a little bit of fat off of that, but at the same time, it's Vegas. Everybody's palm gets greased.
That's right. You could also call the Fertittas who are here, and they just sold the UFC for $4 billion. Artifacts and relics, though, in the NFL. Maybe they have to give up the stake in the casino. All right, bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Do you want to call this a bad beat? The mother of all runs. OKC with a 22-2 run, but the Spurs still get the money.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Spurs, after the back-to-back losses, came out in the first half. They lead by 10. They come out with a little run at the beginning of the second half. OKC's down 17. And in a blink, in a 5-minute span of court time, the Thunder go from down 17 to up 3. That doesn't happen in San Antonio, especially after the Spurs had just blown back-to-back leads in the second half. And everyone on the roster talked about not having it happen again. But, of course, by the way, Spurs still won and covered despite that OKC run. Not sure who the bad beat's for, but the bottom line is, funky game, worth talking about. And you got a good quote from ESPN Stats and Info on that.
Now, I got that. Thunder outscored the Spurs by 8 points with Westbrook on the court. Were outscored by 22 points in his 14 minutes on the bench. Mercy there. Good stuff from ESPN Stats and Info. These are all bad bets. College now. Look at this. Big surprise. Creighton won at Butler.
Yeah, and there was a ton of Butler money. Butler bet up from 6.5 to 7.5, and Creighton Now, with back-to-back wins off an injury that many thought would kill their season, they seem to have bounced back strong.
And the wise guys were betting against Maryland. All they do is win, and they beat Ohio State.
Yeah, there was a big wise guy move on the Buckeyes last night, and all the Terps have done all year. We saw anti-Maryland money come in the Minnesota game. We saw anti-Maryland money come in the Michigan game. They continue to bet against the Terps every time they hit the highway. Meanwhile, Maryland 100% straight up, 100% ATS on the road so far this season.
Yep, and how about Iowa? They had a huge lead early against Rutgers, and they did it without their leading scorer, Peter Jock.
Yeah, well, Jock's the leading scorer in the Big Ten. He's Iowa's leading scorer. He's their second leading assist man. He's the second leading rebounder. Now 2-0 straight up without Jock. He scored 83 and 85, and they beat the spread by 32.5 points in those ball games. I mean, great ball movement last night. No one had more than 17 points, but 30 of 60 shooting for the Hawkeyes, and 24 assists on those 30 made baskets.
Bad for the books. But no, by the way, another Knicks game goes over. But bad for the books. The Wizards at home again. They get the money. 15-0 straight up. 14-1 ATS run at home.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it again and again and again on sports, but let's just call it what it is, Pauly. Right now, the Wizards at home is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yep, shenanigans here with the total. New Orleans and Toronto opened 215, closed 212.5. Never had a shot until overtime, and it lands 214. Come on.
Yeah, if you're the guy that bet under 214.5 or under 215, nice work. You're the only ones that are able to cash, but it does land right in the middle, and it's just brutal. You've got a right side. Right side goes to overtime, and you ended up losing it or lose it by a hook or something like that, but not a good result for the house in that one. You don't like anything falling in the middle.
All right, play of the day winner. Georgia getting 16.5 at Kentucky. Musburger's final game on ESPN. 9-0 Georgia out of the gates. Should have won the game, but they lose in overtime.
Yeah, but a wire-to-wire winner, and of course it was nothing but Georgia money. The market's not very excited about Kentucky right now, and probably deservedly so. Wildcats never sniffed a point spread cover. Georgia loses in OT, but they cashed a winning wager, and it was not a good result for the house.
Are you ready, Teddy? Props. 2 full segments coming up. Can't wait. Right around the corner on sportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts and shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, back on sportsBIT. Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. No big game breakdown today. We'll do 2 full segments on the props. Tomorrow, we'll do Super Bowl side and total and Super Bowl betting history and strategy as well. All right, here we go. It all started with Refrigerator Perry. You know Jimmy Vaccaro on every Tuesday during the football season. He was at the Mirage at the time, looking for a way to increase the betting handle. They said, hey, well, the Refrigerator scored. Jimmy put it up. He got into the end zone, and the books took a bath on that one, Teddy.
Well, he sure did. It's, quote, we lost our ass on that bet, but we won in the long run. And that was the start of props, was literally one guy, Refrigerator Perry. And Super Bowl prop betting didn't really get to the next level until a guy we've talked about a lot on this show, Jay Kornegay, took over as a sportsbook director at the Imperial Palace. And you remember the Imperial Palace in the 90s, Pauly? What was it? Let's be honest. The place was a dump. It was an aging property in the middle of the strip that was, everything else around it was getting rebuilt and revitalized. Not the IP. The only thing that kept them open was the sports book. And I'm telling you, the IP was way ahead of the curve when it came to props. Kornegay and the rest of way ahead of the curve. And when he left the Imperial Palace and went over to the LVH Superbook, which became the Westgate Superbook, he brought the focus on Super Bowl props with him, and that's how we've evolved into this 400-plus prop situation every year in the Super Bowl.
Yes, it used to be. I know a guy came into the studio with the Green Bay New England Super Bowl. There's only like 6 or 7 pages, as we talked about last week, and now he's got over 400 at the Westgate. And Vegas has only lost twice on the Super Bowl: San Diego, San Francisco, and the first Giants when the Patriots are trying to go undefeated. Some great stories last week on the air from Jay. The props that really hurt their feelings and they got beat up. Well, what do these guys bet, Teddy? They want to bet a little to win a lot. So they're betting the overtime and they're betting the safety. And in 2 Super Bowls, the safety was the first score. The second New England-New York Super Bowl, the safety right off the bat, Brady intentional grounding, that was 100-1. And then the snap over Manning's head to start the game in New York with the Denver and Seattle, that was 60-1. Those were some of the worst props ever for the sports books and Jay Kornegay. Also, Devin Hester, when the Bears lost to the Colts, he was, I think, 50-1 to score the first touchdown. He returned the opening kickoff. And it's crazy, Teddy, how many safeties we've had over the years. Remember how it ended in San Francisco and Baltimore? In New Orleans, final play of the game, the Ravens take the safety. It also puts the game on 3.
Yeah, I mean, the safety has absolutely killed the sports books in recent years because, again, you have the general public, there's always going to try to bet a little to win a lot, whether it was with parlays, whether it was props. That's just the mentality. And, of course, the wise guys, you call them bridge jumpers in some of these wagers. You know, there still hasn't been an overtime in a Super Bowl. Someday it'll come, and the wise guys will get clocked on that one as well. But they've been absolutely beaten up on the no safety prop. They're laying -900, -800, -1,000 on those type of wagers, and safety after safety after safety. But you talk about those 3 particular Super Bowls where the first touchdown of the game is a big F you to the bookmaker all 3 times, or first score of the game. Oh, by the way, here's a safety. He's their first score at 100-1. Welcome to the rest of the game. You know, here's Hester returning a TD. Welcome to the game. You just, doesn't matter what happens the rest of the way, you guys are screwed. The books can and do take a beating on some of these props. And obviously the long shots are the ones that are likely to kill them.
All right, let's talk about some wise guy strategies here.
I'm going to talk about one sharp bettor that I talked to, and I'm just going to talk about the mentality here. This is what he thinks. Okay, he likes the shortest touchdown of the game under 1.5 yards prop. So here's the thought process. Well, let's see. The total is 59. That correlates down to 7 touchdowns. 15% of touchdowns are from the 1 yard line. So that gives us a 68% chance of a 1 yard touchdown, but that should even be higher because in this game, there's more likely to be a pass interference in the end zone. Plus, it correlates with the under, and the guy likes the under in the game, so therefore this prop makes even more sense, etc., etc. These are not small thought process. This isn't, hey, Tom Brady's great, let's bet on him. This is really think it out with a lot of these props. I mean, the Tuesday groups, which I went to the meeting yesterday. One of the sharpest guys come in with all of this kicking and punting data. I mean, sick stuff. This is a guy who's going to pick off every weak number in town, literally. Goes around town and just finds it. Familiar with the numbers, the off-market numbers, he's just picking them off one or the other. So here's a guy, he said, why are the Texans ranked number 32 in touchback percentage at home? What do you care about the Texans? Well, he's not worried about just the 2 kickers themselves. He's worried about the field and the conditions on the field. So, we're talking about guys with 6-figure bankrolls having these type of thought processes. And it's not that you can't beat them, but recognize what you're going up against. You're not going up against action junkies.
Yep, and the pros will lay the chalk, and like you said, the public will bet a little to win a lot. Can we get a photo of the Tuesday group?
All right, well, this is a rare photo of the Tuesday group. Here you go, flash it. All right, no, Chad Millman took one once from ESPN, of course, and I think that's the only one that's ever... No, Isaac Feeder put us in the movie. We were in the Life on the Line movie, the Tuesday group, but that wasn't, that was kind of staged a little bit, so not a lot of photos of the Tuesday group out there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is only the second year that Vegas has putting up the MVP odds, and it wasn't a good start because a lot of people bet Von Miller last year.
Yeah, that's a big plus price. Now, if you look at the chart right here, you're going to see pretty much in the modern era, it's been quarterbacks. Pretty much. Brady's got 3 rings himself, but you see in recent years, you had Peyton Manning in 2007, and Eli in 2008, and Drew Brees in 2010, and Rodgers, and Eli, and Flacco, and Brady again. Now, in the last 3 years, we've seen 2 defensive players win, and the only other recent guys winning have been wide receivers. But you ask me about this game, I think it's wide open for MVP. And again, with all of the numbers out there and all the numbers available, where do you find value in this prop, Pauly? I don't. I haven't found any. That's not a bet I'm looking to make.
Why do you think it's wide open? With this total and Brady and Ryan? How many guys on New England can legitimately win the MVP other than Brady? If they have a huge game and win, they're going to score points, and they got to give it to Tom, I would think, unless you get a
Tom's
wide
got
receiver.
3 already. They don't want to give Brady more rings. They want to, if somebody makes a defensive play and gets a score that way. If Blunt gets 2 touchdowns, or Deion Lewis gets 2 touchdowns, or if Hogan has the kind of game that he had in the AFC Championship game, or Edelman has the big game. There are multiple guys for New England who could get it instead of Brady. Because remember, the guy's already got 3 of them. And sometimes there is a bias against a quarterback who has a bunch of MVP rings.
Well, let's be honest. Don't we want to see Goodell hand him the trophy? And you have to have the press conference the day after the game where they have to pose for pictures? Come on, the media wants to see that.
That would be something that would be very fun to watch. No question, Pauly. No question at all.
Dynamite there. Up next, final segment. What we like. Props to go over in Vegas. Oddball props. Wardrobe malfunctions. How many times will they mention Trump and show Giselle? All that coming up. And the play of the day on sportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
All right, wrapping it up on sportsBIT Betting Insight today. Final segment with the props. We'll do the game, side, total, and Super Bowl history coming up tomorrow. Let's start with the oddball stuff. Controversy a couple years ago, but Luke Bryan, national anthem length, 2 minutes, 9 seconds. And people are going crazy because there's him singing on YouTube with national anthem was only like 1:54. Well, they think he'll stretch it out in this one. Will he forget or omit a word? Yes, 4-1. Will they mention Trump? 1.5. The over-under in that one. Will they mention Gronk? Now, this is high. 3 times. Why are they going to mention Gronk 3 times? I can't believe how high that is. Will Brady, Goodell, and Belichick shake Goodell's hand after the game if they win? Yes, minus 180. Will a player kneel during the national anthem? No, minus $2. Will they show Giselle over-under 1.5 times? I think that's going to go under. I didn't even see her 2 years ago. And will they mention Deflategate 1.5 times as well? And Joe Buck is well aware of these props, Teddy, and he talked about it on the Howard Stern show.
Well, that's kind of cool. I didn't know Joe Buck had the nads to go on the Howard Stern show. Where are those numbers from, Paul? Do you know offhand?
Bovada,
right on. Yeah, and again, these are props. They're fun to talk about. The limits are low. Although, and you do have to worry about grading questions on some of them because, as you mentioned, there's been controversy in the past with things like the length of the national anthem. Let's talk about some more props that we like. How about let's talk about Deion Lewis. You can find Deion Lewis over under 39.5 rushing yards. You can find Deion Lewis rushing and receiving yards 66.5, and there's been a little bit of under money on those. And there seems to be a fair divide between what are the Patriots going to do. Is it going to be all blunt, or is this Lewis's chance to shine? Now, we know that Atlanta's biggest defensive weakness is against the run. I mean, they finished the regular season with the number 28th ranked rush defense. They allowed 4.6 yards per carry. We saw Seattle have success using a power rushing game in Atlanta's playoff opener before the Seahawks fell behind and had to abandon the run. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see New England come out with a run-heavy game plan, at least initially, in this one. Of course, Lewis, a non-factor against the Steelers. In their previous 3 games, the guy was running the ball. He's been a consistent pass catcher out of the backfield for Brady. I expect him to be a significant part of New England's game plan on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yep. Will there be a block punt? Yes, 6-1. Will the Patriots convert a 4th down? Yes, only plus $1.45. I can't believe it's plus money when you figure it to be a shootout. I haven't seen a price this low before. Will the team score 3 straight times? Yes is minus 175. Will there be a missed extra point? Yes, plus 330. There were 3 of them on Championship Sunday, Teddy. 3 different kickers.
Gostkowski's cold right now.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen this. He's been one of the most reliable kickers in the NFL forever. Or not forever, but since he came into the league. I mean, they let Vinatieri go to, which is kind of a big deal. He's ice cold right now, and that's one of those plus price props that might be worth a look. The fourth down conversion is something I was thinking about as well. I'd rather have either team get a fourth down conversion.
Yeah, good point.
Successful fourth down conversion, even if I have to lay a little bit of juice to it, as opposed to taking each one individually. That way you're covered whoever is behind in the fourth quarter, because they'll be going for it.
I bet that. I like missed extra point. I also don't bet will there be a successful 2-point conversion. Bet will there be an attempt. That's plus $1.55. So that's I bet that as well. And I think that'll happen too. How about Hogan? After he goes for $1.80 against the Steelers, he's only 59.5 with yards.
Yeah, 59.5. There's 60.5s out there with Hogan. And there's significant resistance to the over. The wise guys have been betting under on this. And, of course, if you grade out his full season, you're not going to see stats that show that he should be, he was 44.5 yards last week. You know what I mean? This is a huge bump from where he'd been aligned at. But without Gronk, the way the Patriots have been game planning is to use Hogan as their number one guy. I like Hogan. Another guy I like is Mohamed Sanu. When you think about what's New England going to do, what do they do? Well, they took away Antonio Brown. You would expect Julio Jones to get double covered in this contest. So what does that mean? It means Matt Ryan's looking for second and third and fourth options. And Sanu is a guy who was real hot down the stretch. You can get him at what? Over under 4 receptions. You can get him over under 48.5, 49.5 yards. And you don't want to take too many overs, but this is, Sanu receptions and yardage is something I would definitely take a look at.
Maybe Belichick says, let's let Julio do his thing. Let's shut down the supporting cast. This is from Peter King. In 6 games this year when Jones didn't play or it didn't do much on the field, a below-average performance, Atlanta went 6-0 and averaged 37 points per game in that one. How about more kickers? Matt Bryan, over 1.5 field goals.
Well, yeah, this is one that just comes down to the question is New England's red zone defense as good as it's looked? And in a game where you expect a lot of scoring opportunities, with the Patriots' propensity to force field goals in the red zone, Bryan over 1.5 minus 130, that's in my mind a very reasonable price to lay.
Yes. Now this is fascinating. Now in the 6 previous Belichick and Brady Super Bowls, they haven't scored in the first quarter. It's unbelievable. Look at this. Here are the scores in the first quarter with Belichick and Brady: 3-0, 0-0, 0-0, 3-0, 9-0, and 0-0. Come on.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we like the third quarter to outscore the first quarter. And again, you have to lay a little bit of juice, minus 130. But the propensity for slow starts, we always think about the Pats and Belichick off a bye. Patriots had 2 games off a bye this year. They had week 1, obviously coming out of the preseason where they had extra time to prepare, against Arizona. They were lucky to win that game. Arizona missed a field goal that would have won it. And they had the game against the Seahawks. Neither time did the Patriots offense march up and down the field. Neither time did New England win by margin. In fact, they lost at home to Seattle. So I worry about that Patriots offense coming with an extra week to prepare. Sometimes that's a positive thing for New England. I'm not convinced it's going to be.
You know what's crazy? You got a lot of those games that were scoreless in the second quarter. A lot of them went over, too.
Oh, they flew over.
They exploded. I know. We were watching the Seattle-New England Super Bowl together. That was scoreless, middle of the second quarter, and it went over as well. And then the one in Houston with Carolina and New England, that exploded as well. All right, it's been a great run. It's been a great football season. 47-27 on the season. Props, what are we going to do, Teddy?
All right, here's the one that absolutely stood out for play of the day standpoint. Will there be a defensive or special teams touchdown? And we are going to bet the no. You can find it as low as minus 175. We're going to grade ourselves at minus $2 with this prop. Look, Brady, a 28-2 touchdown to interception ratio during the regular season. 5-2 ratio in the playoffs. That's 4 INTs all year. Matt Ryan, 38-7 TD to INT ratio in the regular season. 7 touchdowns without a pick in the playoffs. So we're talking about 34 games, 2 quarterbacks with 11 interceptions combined. I don't see a lot of pick 6 possibilities in this game. The 2 teams combined for 1 special teams touchdowns all year. That came Deion Lewis's kick return touchdown that screwed our under against the Texans. That's it for the 2 teams all year. So they're not loaded with special teams playmakers. You have 2 quarterbacks that aren't making a whole lot of mistakes. And, do we have a chance for a fumble 6? Yeah, there's a chance. But minus $2, boy, that's a prop that makes a lot of sense to me. And again, you can find it at cheaper than that. Will there be a defensive or special teams touchdown? No! That's our play of the day.
All right, excellent. Knockout information there. Fun show. Tomorrow, the game itself, it's the Super Bowl. Side and total. We'll do 2 segments on that and Super Bowl history betting strategy as well. We'll talk
Plus, Google Hangouts tomorrow night.
That's right.
Let's not
I
forget.
forgot about that. Yeah, you got it.
8 o'clock Pacific time. So any questions you have for us about the Super Bowl, props, totals, some of the stuff we didn't get to last week, should be a lot of fun. Again, 8 o'clock Pacific. Find it on SBR. Of course, you follow us on Twitter. You can get the link, no problem.